Oh, good gravy. It has been quite a while since a show or movie triggered me. Prime Video's docuseries, Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets, not only looks at the fundamentalist family, but also an organization they became intimately entwined with. Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets is a limited docuseries exposing the truth behind the wholesome Americana surface of reality TV's favorite megafamily, the Duggars, and the radically controversial organization behind them, the Institute in Basic Life Principles. A number of ex-IBLP survivors bravely come forward and reveal the abusive practices that kept them in a living nightmare. So this Prime Video docuseries starts out focusing on the Duggars and their extremely large fundamentalist Christian family, but then it begins to dive into the inner workings of the family, which then transitions the focus more to the Institute in Basic Life Principles, which has been compared to a cult. And through this series, we get interviews from Jill Duggar Dillard, relaying all sorts of just insight into the inner workings of the family that we never got to be shown in the show. Now, we got the polished version, and Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar put in a huge effort to always portray a spotless family with utterly obedient children who are always amenable and eager to help. We learned that Jim Bob was very manipulative, especially when it came to the TV contracts, locking kids into terms they didn't know they were agreeing to and removing any financial gain the kids may receive from the show in order to hoard the money himself. And this extended even when the kids were married. I mean, they were still locked into contracts they didn't realize they'd signed. But as off-putting as that is, the parental Duggars perpetrated much worse against their children. When it was revealed that their oldest son, Josh, had been sexually assaulting and abusing some of his sisters, as well as others, instead of having actual consequences and treatment, Josh was sent to a Christian camp run by Institute in Basic Life Principles. I'm going to get to them in just a minute. But this was the practice of many such offenders. Sweep the crimes under the rug in favor of preserving the family facade that they were the poster family of Christian fundamentals. We see and hear heartbreaking and terrible interviews as some Duggar sisters talk about the violence that was forced upon them by their brother, and then to be basically violated again by having their parents give a small slap on the hand and be very dismissive of the crimes. And we now know the progression of events with Josh, because he was never actually held accountable for his crimes against his sisters and others when he was a teenager. When he became an adult, he was a pedo, found to have horrendously repulsive content featuring children and infants on his computer. And after these portions alone, you may want to take a shower. Now, I've mentioned the Institute in Basic Life Principles, or IBLP, and I've also said how this docuseries was triggering for me. Well, I grew up in a Southern Baptist home and church, and I attended IBLP seminars a few times. I had the books, I took the notes, I went to the conferences, all as a tween and even into teenager. I was just drinking the Kool-Aid that they were serving and not knowing any better. Now, as the docuseries transitioned its focus from the Duggars to how they and IBLP were intertwined, dysfunctional memories, they just flooded my mind, creating a very physical and visceral reaction from seeing Bill Gothard, IBLP's leader. On screen, he's just spewing his twisted rhetoric. Now, luckily, I never attended any of the physical institutes, but the docuseries features interviews from people who did attend those in different parts of the country, and I found it horrendous just to hear the abuse and creepy advances they endured from leaders and then even Gothard himself. And all the while, the Duggars were using their national platform of reality TV to help them influence viewers in the ways of IBLP, even if they weren't outright saying the Institute's name. But the docuseries also shows us how Jim Bob used his popularity to become politically influential. Even running for, I think it was Senate. And it's demonstrated in the series how this political infestation by fundamentalists was the end goal of IBLP, because then they could influence laws and policies to turn this country into a Christian nation. Now, IBLP was, and maybe still is, a very scary organization. They train people in ways that mimic military tactics, almost like they're creating their own army or fighting force to enact their beliefs on the people when the time comes. Now, I do think the docuseries at 4-hour-long episodes is a bit much, but the information is harrowing and very disturbing, as well as being informative. The interviews are emotionally captivating and very moving, as well as being tough to hear. And I'm impressed at the courage the subjects had to speak out, knowing that some of it was directly criticizing their parents and family, and basically their entire upbringing. And even if you know nothing about the Duggars or IBLP, this is an excellent docuseries to watch in order just to be informed of entities that are attempting to insert themselves into the political arenas and then advocate for laws that only agree with their narrow world views. There's no sex or nudity, a little profanity, and while no violence is shown, there are terrible descriptions of violence, including sexual assault and abuse. Now, as a reminder, I don't give couch ratings to documentaries, but I highly recommend checking out Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets on Prime Video. So are there any great documentaries that you've seen recently that you could recommend? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.